I'm Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilts, and today I'm going to go over some tips for fussy cutting with the set sail pattern. The set sail pattern was originally designed to maximize the use of a fat quarter. It didn't take into account using a print that would have something like this, where you'd want to fussy cut a face or would want to make sure directional things stayed vertical. So with a little bit extra fabric and some attention to fussy cutting, you can really create a one-of-a-kind set sail quilt. So I'm going to show you how to take fabric like this. This is Tula Pink's Nightshade Deja Vu, and we are going to fussy cut from these cameo prints to create diamonds like this. Let's get started. Make sure you sign up below and we'll email you a PDF of all of the fabric requirements and cutting details that you need to customize your set sail quilt with Nightshade Deja Vu by Tula Pink. Gone ahead and pressed my fabric, and now it's time to go ahead and prep my ruler for the fussy cutting. So I'm going to slide my fabric out of the way for a moment so that you can focus on the ruler. And there's a couple options here. You can use blue painter's tape or glow line tape. Glow line tape is specifically designed for quilting use. It is a 1/4 inch wide and can be put on either side of the ruler. I prefer, for this instance, blue painter's tape because of the large area it'll block out, but I do find this is very helpful for other uses, so it's kind of a good thing to have on hand. But today I'm going to use blue painter's tape. I like to use tape that is at least 3/4 of an inch to an inch wide. This is closer to about 2 inches. So I'm simply going to take 2 pieces and I want to mark off the 6.5 inch line. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm just going to line it up right exactly on the black line, not over it, not too far this way, right exactly on it. Take your time with this. You want to make sure that you have this lined up properly so that your fussy cutting turns out perfectly. And if your piece extends past your ruler, just tear that excess off so it won't interfere with your rotary cutter. I got a second piece. And again, right on the 6.5 inch line. And you can trim the excess off with an X-Acto blade, or you can just rip it off if you don't happen to have one handy. Just want to make sure it doesn't extend past the ruler so it doesn't interfere with your rotary cutter. So this is what your ruler should look like now. Have your 6.5 inch diamond perfectly marked off so that we can do some fussy cutting. So I'm going to bring my fabric back. And one thing to keep in mind is that this is going to be tall. So because the 6.5 inch measurement is this direction, this is actually a 12 inch tall diamond. With the points, it's 13 inches. So depending on how your fabric was cut, you may or may not be able to get them from everywhere. So for instance, the way that this was cut, if I really want to get this one down here, can you see that? I am losing a little bit, so I would have to kind of zhuzh it up. And that's okay if you need to get one more out of your fabric to kind of cut one like that. But when possible, you want to make sure that you have the entire cameo to work with. So I like to use this oval as my reference with this specific fabric. Every fabric will have its own kind of unique personality and you'll figure out what fits in the space. But as you can see, the oval kind of fits right inside the diamond, and some of it will be in the seam allowance, but that still doesn't that's okay. It just still helps me with centering it for fussy cutting. And I like to generally try and keep my diamond pointed up. This to here should be a perfectly straight line. Fabric is not always printed perfectly, so there's always a caveat of should with those things. But get that lined up. And then I am going to start by cutting first this side. And then this side. Close my rotary cutter. Always want to be safe. Take my ruler off, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate my fabric around, because you always want to cut safely, which means if you're right-handed, cutting this way, if you're left-handed, cutting this way, you never want to cut towards yourself. So I'm going to get my fabric nice and lined up here. And I've got a couple yards that I'm working with since I want to have enough cameos to make the entire quilt. So take your time when you're working with a lot of fabric. And what you want to do is realign your ruler. So take your time to kind of marry these two pieces back together so that you know everything is nice and flat, and to line up your blue tape or whatever method you use to mark yours off with that. And this is definitely one of those measure twice, cut once. So double check that you're in the right place. And then go ahead and cut the remaining two sides. And that's what we will end up with. Since the quilt pattern was originally written for fat quarters, I had it so that you would cut one diamond from most of the fat quarters. That's no longer necessary since we're going to be fussy cutting all of our diamonds from a separate fabric. As a result, follow the directions on page 3 of the PDF to use diagram B on page 3 of the pattern. One thing to keep in mind, and I mentioned this on page 3 of the PDF, with this fabric is that you cut some of diagram B as shown and some of diagram B with the triangles pointed down. I'll show you why in the quilt. So you'll want to make sure that you cut some with the triangles pointed down so that you can use it in placements like this, and some with the triangles pointed up so you can use it in placements like this. All of the remaining fabrics can be used in either direction, so those don't need extra attention. It's just specifically this one print with these cute, adorable little potion bottles. I hope this extra cutting tutorial was helpful. If it was, please click like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And again, make sure that you sign up for the PDF so that you have the additional information. And I'll see you again soon.